What's up guys, I'm the Nerdy Ginger and welcome to my first ever album review. Music has always been one of my biggest passions, so it's awesome that I'm finally getting this chance to really talk about it and put my opinions out there. Because if there's one thing that the internet loves, it's opinions. For my first review, I want to take a look at what was probably my most anticipated album for this year, Ember by Breaking Benjamin. I've been a fan of Breaking Benjamin for about 3 years, mostly with singles like So Cold and Diary of Jane getting heavy radio play, especially So Cold in my area. I got into them around the time Dark Before Dawn came out, when they were going to open up for Avenged Sevenfold. My mom and I bought tickets to see that show. They were opening up and I figured, hey, I actually kind of care about that band. I'm going to check out their discography. So I did. I started by buying Dark Before Dawn, that later turned to buying the rest of the discography all at once. So yeah, I fell in love pretty quick. Now on their 6th studio album, Ember, one of the biggest reasons I was so excited for it was because I knew with the entire new lineup in Breaking Benjamin, other than lead singer Benjamin Burnley, all the rest of them were going to be helping with the songwriting process, which before then, Benjamin Burnley was the primary songwriter, really the only songwriter with very few exceptions. So I was very excited to see what these new members were going to bring to the table. Enough of the history, let's get right into the album review. The album opens up with Vega, just a quick 30-second intro with just some light piano that basically follow the chorus structure of the song that's to come, Feed the Wolf. I love how this intro actually seamlessly bleeds into Feed the Wolf. They've had a couple other intros on Dark Before Dawn and Phobia, but they never really led into the songs, especially on Dark Before Dawn. The intros just kind of ended and then the songs started. So I'm glad that this one actually kind of builds up and really builds up the excitement for the awesomeness that is the next track. So Vega leads right into Feed the Wolf, which was one of the pre-release singles on the album and was immediately one of my favorites off of this. I connected with this song immediately. Feed the Wolf is a great first track on the album. Starts off heavy with your typical fast single note breaking Benjamin riff, and it just leads into this amazing chorus with pounding drums that I absolutely love. This chorus sounds a little different for Breaking Benjamin, at least to me. I don't think Breaking Benjamin has had a chorus that was this high energy and frantic with pounding drums like this. Some people might disagree, but it's something that I noticed that I love about this song. Ben Burnley lets out some screams in this chorus, and it actually kind of sounds like he's screaming and singing at the same time, like he's screaming almost melodically, which I really like. Like, yeah, it sounds rough like a good rock and metal song should, but you can still kind of sing along to the screaming without actually screaming yourself. It's a really nice touch that really puts a bow on this amazing song. The bridge also has some nice build-up with some spoken words and some soft guitar leading into some heavy riffs that just make me want to headbang, and it's so good. During the song's final chorus, we get another thing that will kind of become present on a lot of other songs in this album, where Ben Burnley will be singing the main chorus line they've been hearing throughout the entire song, but there'll also be some overlaid vocals. In this case, with some chants of fight the animal all throughout it. I heard a nice little analogy in another review where somebody said it sounded like he was talking in a mirror to himself, and the mirror was the one saying fight the animal to him. I thought that was a really good analogy. Next track is the lead single off the album, Red Cold River. After the initial onslaught that was Feed the Wolf, we kind of get some soft guitars to start off the song, and then it just hits you with this heavy riff and some screams by Ben Burnley. Ben Burnley, I just said that, okay. When I first listened to the song, I really didn't like these screams. It was just kind of predictable how he was just screaming like the typical 3-4 times and getting into like that title line, screaming Red Cold River. I found it actually kind of annoying at first. It's something that had to grow on me. What didn't have to grow on me though was that chorus. That chorus is absolutely beautiful. I don't really have any complaints about it except maybe a little repetition if I'm being nitpicky. But seriously, this is a classic Breaking Benjamin chorus that I'll be singing for years to come. Like Feed the Wolf, the last chorus also ends with some overlaid vocals, basically repeating the line from the bridge, "Try to find a reason to live," as he's going over the main chorus lines again. It's a real cacophony of sound. I'm not sure how much I like it. It kind of feels like the last chorus is a little bit of a mess. It doesn't ruin it for me. I still like it, but again, I feel like it was just a little bit messy. It's not quite my thing. That being said, Red Cold River is still a really solid track. I wouldn't say it's one of my top favorites off of the album, but it's still good and a very good lead single as well. Track number 4 is Tourniquet. This is one I kind of heard a lot of buzz about before the album's official release. I was just kind of looking around online to see if the album would leak, just to kind of see some opinions on it. I would never pirate an album. Never. I swear. Trust me. Okay? I'm not a pirate. But in my search, I did hear a lot of people saying that Tourniquet was one of their favorite tracks. Somebody saying that it was straight up badass, and I can kind of see why. We get this really cool distorted guitar intro, which then just explodes with a scream into the main riff. The lyrics during the verses kind of have this I will, I won't sort of scheme, where all the lyrics during the first verse begin with I will, and all the lyrics in the second verse all begin with I won't. It's kind of a cool little dichotomy they have going on there. There's also this cool little lead guitar line that goes throughout like the second half of the verses, where it's just some quick palm muted notes that kind of just add just like this little flair during the verses that I really like. As per usual with Breaking Benjamin, the chorus is pretty great. I especially love when he screams the title line, "Love will tie the tourniquet and suffocate me." It's just one of the most badass lines that I've seen in a Breaking Benjamin song. Next up is Psycho, one that me and a lot of other people seem to have mixed feelings on. The intro sounds pretty different for Breaking Benjamin. It's a simple hammer-on pull-off riff, but it's not something that we really hear from them. The song soon explodes into one of the fastest and most technical riffs on the album, and I love it. That's a recurring theme with this album. I basically want to learn every one of these songs on guitar because these riffs are pretty freaking sweet. The verses mostly follow that hammer-on riff that started off the song with a little bit of stuff added in. Again, it's more of a bouncy feel that you don't hear in a lot of Breaking Benjamin songs. But then the chorus hits and it's literally the stereotypical Breaking Benjamin chorus, and it really just kind of feels pieced into me. It just doesn't really fit within the song for me, and it actually reminds me a lot of Never Again off of Dark Before Dawn, which really sounds nothing like the rest of this song. I feel like they were trying to do something different in the verses, but then they were just like, oh, this is almost too different. We better just put our most typical chorus within the middle just kind of stuck in there so that people don't freak out about it. The chorus is still fine. Again, I just don't feel like it fits. But then we get something I wasn't really expecting, an actual guitar solo. This was something I was kind of hoping to see in the lead singles like Red Cold River and Feed the Wolf, so I kind of stopped expecting it and it just kind of came out of nowhere and I was pleasantly surprised. We get some pretty solid shredding by guitarist Jason Rauch, and I really hope that we do see more of this in the future. We did get another short solo on their last album, Dark Before Dawn, with the song Hollow, which was pretty good. That one kind of had a little bit more of a structure to it though, while the Psycho one seems a little bit random. Although I think that kind of actually fits with the mood of the song. Seriously though, Breaking Benjamin, you've got a great guitar player on your hands. Please use him more often. More solos for the guitar nerd, please. Now smack in the middle of the album, we finally get a little bit of a breather from all the heaviness with this amazing ballad, The Dark of You. This is the first Breaking Benjamin song in a long time to actually have a guest vocalist. We get, I believe his name is Derek Howe, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, who was on Dancing with the Stars and also posted this amazing cover of Ashes of Eden with this amazing dance choreography. It's really a great video, you should check it out. After you finish watching this, of course. Derek doesn't really get his own section of the song like a lot of guest artists typically do, but he is harmonizing with Breaking Benjamin, I believe, throughout the entire song. Ben Burnley himself is still very much at the forefront of the vocal line, so you can kind of really only barely hear Derek, which is kind of sad. I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more of what this man could do in the song. I kind of wish he was either a little bit louder in the mix or maybe had like his own verse so we could really see what he could do. Nonetheless, the song is really fantastic. It has an amazing atmosphere. The lyrics kind of sound like are almost apocalyptic in nature, talking about the fall of humankind. The main instrument really is piano and whatever sort of electronics that they might have in the background. There's a little bit of guitar towards the later half of the song, although it's mostly just like a single strummed chord, but it does help to kind of differentiate the different verses. It's really a fantastic song. I just hope that it doesn't get compared too much to Ashes of Eden, just because I know that that was a ballad and that was quite a big success off of the last album, even though they really sound nothing alike. Although I'm kind of perpetuating that now by comparing them like that, but really, they sound nothing alike, so I just hope they don't get compared too much, because Dark of You is great, and it's one of the best songs off of the album. After the dark, almost apocalyptic sound of The Dark of You, we get something that's completely different up next with the song Down. Despite what you may think by the title, the song is actually a lot more upbeat and triumphant, which is actually kind of a great way to pick you up after The Dark of You. We get this really cool electronic intro at the very beginning of the song, which kind of builds up some sort of atmosphere, but then we just kind of go right into another just typical Breaking Benjamin riff. It's kind of a shame because that was a really cool intro and it's not really used throughout the song at all, except for maybe a little touch before in like the pre-chorus. Like that little nitpick, the rest of the song is still really good. The guitars in the verse kind of have an interesting groove with just some light palm muted power chords, but then in the later half of the verse you get another light lead guitar, which again just kind of spices up the verses a little bit. The chorus here is one of the catchiest on the album. This is something I still can't get out of my head, and I'm now singing in my head now as I'm thinking about it. The lyrics are a little bit cliche about fighting, rising up, and breaking the chains that tie you down. But again, that melody is just so good, I just can't get it out of my head. It's a song I keep coming back to off of this album. Right as the bridge starts, we quiet down just for a couple of seconds before Burnley starts belting out some screams and actually some pretty high notes. I think the high notes are more of the background vocal, but it still sounds pretty awesome. Right after the bridge, you kind of get this typical thing where the song will have like a quieter version of the chorus and then go back louder into the main chorus. It's kind of a cliche that I kind of hate, honestly, but not so much in this song. I don't know, it just kind of works. I like the way that the clean guitar sounds in this. I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking this song a lot, but it's actually one of my favorites off the album. It just kind of has all of the pieces for me. You got this really interesting electronic intro, a pretty sweet main riff, some really interesting grooves in the verses, an amazing chorus, some belted screams in the bridge. Again, the song has a lot of cliches, but nonetheless, I keep coming back to it. It's just really solid.
And take away the remedy. I am torn in two. Hold on.
Track 8 is Torn in Two. This was one I was really looking forward to listening to because almost a year ago we had the 30-second preview of the song that had leaked online. I love the main riff to this song. It's actually especially fun to play on guitar. I just kind of learned it by ear right after the song came out, and it's basically one of my default things to air guitar when I'm bored. I should probably stop and get back to the review. The chorus is pretty solid too, we got Ben singing in his falsetto, which I don't think we really get him doing all that often. I do feel like the chorus went a little bit long though. It just kind of drags a little bit for me. I know you kind of gotta get to your typical 4-bar section with songs like these, but again, it did drag just a little bit. I do like the little bit of lead guitar shredding that goes on during the last half of the chorus. Again, brings me back. You got a great guitar player, Breaking Benjamin. Use him more often. Speaking of which, the bridge to the song was a little bit disappointing for me. You just kind of get some punchy power chords with some really nice sustained octave chords. It does sound pretty cool, but it gets into a pet peeve that I kind of have with a lot of Breaking Benjamin songs. All throughout their discography, Breaking Benjamin have a lot of songs that just have these really short instrumental bridges that just don't really go anywhere. A lot of them will just kind of repeat the same basic riff over and over for like 4 or 8 measures typically, and oftentimes they really seem like they just kind of cut off again before they really have a chance to get going. Some examples of these kind of songs are songs like Hopeless off of D-Ragony or Breakdown and Away off of We're Not Alone being some of the biggest examples for me. Tourniquet 2 is by far not the worst example of this that we have. There's worse just on this album, which we'll get to in a bit. The kind of lackluster bridge can kind of be excused though by the awesome outro. We get these slow guitars that suddenly explode in with Ben singing Hold On at the top of his lungs, and we get what I believe is actually the bassist Aaron Brook screaming on this one. I kind of wish that he would get more chances to scream, because I've seen videos of him. He basically does almost all the screaming on Red Cold River when they play live, and honestly I think he sounds a lot better than Benjamin Burnley. He can sound really good without the use of these vocal filters that kind of get on my nerves that Ben uses a lot, especially when he screams. Seriously though, it's an awesome way to close out the track. Track 9 is Blood. This one's actually the favorite of the pre-release singles of my friend Spencer. And honestly, this track has really grown on me and probably competes with Feed the Wolf as my favorite song on the album. We get this simple opening riff, which kind of sounds a little bit different for Breaking Benjamin. This one's also pretty fun to play on guitar for me. Again, it's simple, but I can just rock out to it. This song very much has a pulse that you can really just bob your head to. I love that the way that the guitars and the drums really accent those downbeats, and I think that kind of stuff would make this a great live song for Breaking Benjamin. The chorus to this is really awesome too. The first half of it has really staccato guitars with some pinch harmonics sprinkled in, which sound really cool. We get these alternating vocals between like the lead vocal and the background vocal that sound really cool. The second half is a little bit smoother with the same chords that were played in the first half, only more just strumming along to it. We get Ben screaming the title line, "It's in my blood," which is just awesome to sing along to. Like, again, we get more of that type of screaming that you can still sing along to, which again, I really love. I don't think this song is getting as much love, at least in terms of YouTube view count, as some of the other singles. I do hope that this one picks up, because this may be my favorite song on the album. Again, this and Feed the Wolf are pretty much neck and neck for me. It's an awesome track. You gotta check this one out. Track 10 is Save Yourself. This was the last of the pre-release singles, the 5th one. Again, slow it down, guys, seriously. I like the main guitar riff to this one. It has some interesting timing and just kind of feels like, I don't know, it's like a rolling guitar riff to me. That's just what it sounds like. The verses are kind of your typical Breaking Benjamin fare, with just some palm muted guitars, some light single note lead guitars with some nice little singing. The chorus hits though, and it's a really, really solid chorus. It's one of the catchiest choruses on the album. There isn't really anything specific that I like about it. I don't know. This one it's just really good. It's just really catchy. It's always stuck in my head. It's easy to sing along to. Sadly, this song probably has the worst case of the disappointing bridges on this album. You get some kind of simple open power chord guitar riffs while the lead guitar is just kind of spamming octave chords. I feel like the first time I listened to it, I'm like, ooh, this sounds kind of cool. It feels like it's building up to something. But then I remembered, oh wait, this song's literally just over 3 minutes. This is going to end immediately. Yup, it did. The bridge literally went nowhere. It didn't have any build. It stayed with the same tempo, repeating the same riff over and over again. Again, it was just disappointing. I feel like it was kind of lazy. Like something really could have fit in there. It's a shame because the rest of the song is really good, but the bridge just really lets it down. Some of you may think that I'm harping on this particular aspect of the song a little bit too much, but I can't really help it, especially because with so many other songs from other bands, the bridges are usually one of my favorite parts of the songs, and I just hate to see it be just kind of lazily thrown together with just some random riff. It's a really big reoccurring thing in a lot of Breaking Benjamin's music, and I don't see a lot of people bringing it up, which is kind of why I really wanted to harp on it in this review. Overall, still a really solid track. I just wish they had done more in the middle of the song with that bridge.
Leave it all behind. Take away the dark inside and lead me to the light. All will fade before we rise.
We finally get to the last main track on the album with Close Your Eyes, which opens up with one of the most brutal and one of the best riffs on the album. For some reason, this particular riff just makes me want to do the chicken head. I'm sorry you had to see that, please forgive me. Sadly for me, the rest of the song doesn't really live up to that awesome riff. I just didn't really connect with this one. The verses are just kind of okay. The chorus, frankly, is kind of boring. It drags a little bit, and it's just not memorable to me. Like Save Yourself, this song also kind of suffers from disappointing bridge syndrome, although it's a little better with the song going a little bit more into it. I kind of like the air raid siren that they have in the background. It's just slightly more interesting than Save Yourself in that aspect, but again, the rest of the song is just kind of meh to me. I've heard a lot of people do really like this song though, and that's fine. This one just didn't really click for me. I'm just not really coming back to it, and I can't really help that. Following this song though, we do have a really cool outro with Vega, which just comes right in as the last riff of Close Your Eyes is finishing off. It has some really cool electronics and some great tribal drum beats that is actually a really great way to close off the album. I just kind of wish that we had a better main song to precede it. So that was Breaking Benjamin's Ember, another really solid album in Breaking Benjamin's discography. Despite some missteps here and there, I do think that this album stands up with some of Breaking Benjamin's best, like We're Not Alone and Phobia. If I were to give it a rating, I'd probably give it around an 8 out of 10. It's got some flaws for sure, but the core of these songs are just so fun to listen to. I had a blast listening to this album overall, so I gotta give it a pretty high rating. If I were to continue to do some more album reviews, I kind of would like to do this typical thing where I pick 4 favorite songs, because most albums typically release 4 singles, so I kind of like to do that, and along with a typical least favorite song. My favorite tracks in no particular order would probably be Feed the Wolf, Blood, along with Down and The Dark of You. Sadly, my least favorite track is probably the closing track, Close Your Eyes. Again, it's not a bad song, it's just the one I'm coming back to least. It's the least memorable for me, at least. So that's my review of Breaking Benjamin's Ember. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see me do some more album reviews, give this video a like and a comment, and subscribe for some more. I don't know how often I'll do these. I'll probably mostly be focusing on albums that I'm actually looking forward to. Like one of the next albums that I'm looking forward to is Tremonti's A Dying Machine record, which hopefully if depending on how this goes, I'll review it. I'll certainly listen to it though. I can't wait for that one. I've been the Nerdy Ginger. This has been my first ever album review, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!